this also interacts with, there's a law called the Prison Rape Elimination Act that is about 15, 20 years old. And what it does is it is supposed to help with oversight, data collection, et cetera, on prison rape. And what happened was it actually passed unanimously in Congress, but then when it went to the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons, to create regulations that would implement the law, all of a sudden they were talking about this anticipation of possibly having cross-sex housing. So they talked about the circumstances by which you might place male offenders in the women's estate. So this was not a part of the original bill. It's a part of the regulations that prevent it. So this kind of set the stage for a lot of other things that happened afterwards. State by state, we've had a lot of litigation. So we have states like New Jersey, where there was recently a court settlement which implemented self-ID. But in states all over, there have been ad hoc cases where you have individual inmates who are suing under the Prison Rape Elimination Act, men, suing to be placed in women's housing, saying that, they are unsafe and they deserve to be housed in the women's estate. And there's been a lot of success there. So then you have places like California and Maine who have passed legislation to implement self-ID. And New York, the state of New York, is considering a similar law. You have states that do it by official policy, and there's no difference between conservative and liberal states, really, other than you have states like California that are much more expansive. But South Dakota is one of the most conservative states, and they have a policy that places some men in women's prisons. So it's really happening on a micro level. And then you don't even need official policy. States like Washington don't have any real written policy, and they are still transferring over men, some of the most horrible men. And there's been a lot of problems stemming from that. They're sex offenders, who have committed violence against women, serial killers, and there's very predictable results from this happening. So the California lawsuit, California had passed this bill, Senate Bill 132, which was the Transgender Agency Dignity Respect Act. And it lays out a bunch of things, but the most important provision is that it says that there's an entitlement to seek housing in the men's or the women's estate if you identify as transgender, non-binary, or intersex. And they specifically prohibit discrimination based on anatomy, based on physical characteristics, based on a factor that is present in the other facility. And what that means is that if there's even a single female sex offender in the women's prison, which there are a handful, then you cannot use sex offender status as a reason to deny transfer. They specifically say that no hormones are required, no surgery is required. So it is a free-for-all.